Good evening and happy independence to Vincentians all across the world. Welcome to today's edition of your favorite Sunday evening program, Sunday Settie. I'm your host, Sion Marshall, and I'll be with you for the next 2 hours or so. Now, I say 2 hours because that's normally the length of the program. However, knowing that today is Independence Day and, excuse me, that there will be the regular parade, Independence Day parade at 6. I'm wondering whether or not I should carry the program all the way up to 6 or I should break maybe within an hour and a half so that people can focus themselves on the parade that is going to be taking place. But indeed, it is Independence Day. Today, St. Vincent and the Grenadines celebrates 45 years of political independence from Britain. And just recently, I had Richard on the program, and he referred to it, or he said Maurice Bishop referred to it as flag independence. Well, this evening, we're going to be discussing all of that. I want to discuss this evening the whole concept of independence and what independence means to each and every Vincentian, or at least to those of you who are joining me. This evening, you would have the opportunity to share with us your own understanding of independence, and we can appreciate what independence means to each and every one of us. Now, let me say this. That means that you would be able, if you are willing, I can send you a link. You can click on that link and you can be into the studio. So, what I will do, I will put the link up top, I will pin it there, and if you think you want to share your story with us, then feel free to do so. Now, let me go into Facebook and share this program. Right? So, let me do this now. 1 second, I'm seeing it there. Right. Wonderful. So, I'm going to share it now. Yes. No, not there. My word. What am I doing? Sorry. Right. Wonderful. So I'm going to share it now. Okay. I'm going to do that now. Okay. So there was some dead air, but I've shared. All right. So I have shared it. So the setting is on. So as I said, I'm going to put the link at the top, and anyone who wants to, let's see now, anyone who wants to join in the program today and share their idea, share their version, share their story of what independence means. And they may have a fun independence story to share. It might be someone who was at the very first independence ceremony 45 years ago. If there's such a person who is paying attention and looking at Sunday Settie, today is your day to join and share. Now, today, we would be without Richard, my good friend, my brother, who is currently on a North American tour promoting his book, The Story of Pauline Bramble, Springs, Blossom, and Young Thorns. So I know he did a number of events in Toronto, in Montreal, and so forth. He has been up and down meeting Vincentians in Canada and promoting his book, signing books for people and so on. And no doubt, I'm sure it has been a fantastic experience for him. I saw him posing with the Consul General to Canada. I saw him posting with Darky Brown and Old George and so forth. So definitely meeting Vincentians over there. And so uh, I know that that connection for Richard would be good. So he's not going to be with us today. It's just going to be me for the next 2 hours or so. And like I said, I would love to know your story. I would love to know what independence means to you. And so if at any time during the broadcast you would like to join me in the broadcast and chat with me a little bit about what independence means to you, about any independence story that you may have. Maybe, as I said, you were there for the very first independence in 1979, or you may talk about, for example, uh, uh, a particular parade that you attended and something that happened specially. You may also want to talk about some of the things that happened between Friday and today, because on Friday there was the youth rally where a number of individuals were awarded national scholarships, exhibitions, and bursaries. Yesterday there was the groundbreaking ceremony for the Acute Referral Hospital in Annesville, and today, now as I said, there'll be the Independence Day parade later on at uh, 6, is it? At 6 o'clock. All right. So lots of things happening. Now, I saw some good s- things on Facebook. Something jumped out at me on Facebook. I want to share this. I think this was taken from the Georgetown Government School, and I really like this. So I want to share these two images from the students at the Georgetown Government School. Isn't that beautiful? Yes. So they're the children in their regular school uniform, and those children at the Georgetown Government School are in the 45 formation in their school uniform. The girls are the 4, and the boys are the 5. I saw this and I really fell in love with it. I thought, wow, this was so beautiful. And then I saw another one, which was even in my view more spectacular. And here it is. The students at the Georgetown Government School. Again, in forming the 45 formation, celebrating the 45th anniversary of independence for St. anywhere it is, and forming the 45 in celebration and recognition of that in the schoolyard. That was really, I really love that. I love the sight of it. And these are the things for me that give me the nostalgic feeling because it's independence. I'm not there ordinarily. If I'd be there, I'd be at the parade, I'd be involved in the events and so on. I would have been naturally at um, the groundbreaking yesterday. Also, Invest SBG had night market over the period at the cruise ship berth. So many things happen. And of course, there's the entertainment aspect where the bikers and those individuals have come to St. Vincent and Grenadines to do motorsports. That's also happening. So many things are happening over the weekend. And it gives us a sense of celebration for the 45 years of our political independence from Britain. So, like I said, today, as I discuss all of this, as we talk about the whole issue of independence and what independence means to us, or at least to me, you are also given the opportunity, you on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you are, logged on to this program, can join. There's a link there. You simply need to click the link. You'll be entered into the studio with me, and we can discuss what independence means to you. All right. Now, at this point, I want to take a quick break because remember I said Richard is not going to be here, but I want to promote his book. So let me take a quick break, and after the break, we come back and we get full blast into the discussion. And hopefully by that time, somebody may click the link and decide, Sion, I want to chat with you on what independence means. So don't go away.
Covering 150 years of history, relating the story of 5 generations. It took 12 years to write, and now it's finally here. The story of Pauline Bramble, Springs, Blossoms, and Young Thorns, a literary masterpiece by Dr. Richard A. Byron Cox, author of the critically acclaimed Where Mama Stares in Vain. Pauline Bramble's story is your great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, and your story. It is our story of pain, love, tears, and joys. Our story of struggle with no surrender. It's a golden gift to our nation as we mark 45 years of independence. Get your copy and a gift for a friend for this independence from Games Bookshop, Career City Store, Giggles at AIA, and Jazzy's at the Cruise Ship Berth. It is our story like never told before. The story of Pauline Bramble. Read it and be inspired.
All right, the story of Pauline Bramble. Good evening, Kojo, and thank you so much for joining, Kojo. So this evening there is no Richard. Um, it's just me this evening, and what I'm doing. One second, I'm trying to share this thing. What I'm doing this evening is I am okay. Sorry. What I'm doing this evening is I'm allowing individuals who've logged on, who are watching, if they want to join me in the studio and chat about what independence means to them, they are completely free and allowed to do that. All right. But I'm just trying to what's going on here now? Um trying to I'm trying to yes, wonderful, wonderful, beautiful. All right. So I'm sharing. I'm still sharing the program, and I'm asking you as well to share. Uh, Sharing. So now let me say this right. Um, Very soon, very soon. What I would love to do. Still doing one more share. Sorry, hold on. One more share. Yes. Okay. Right. Now, so I'm doing all the sharing now, and I hope you're sharing too. Now, one of the things I would love to do soon is I would love to move the program off Facebook completely and onto YouTube. Um, because YouTube gives more freedom, one, um, because I say more freedom because you do not have to have a YouTube account to watch the show. So for those individuals who have their smart TVs and so on and would love to watch the program, but they aren't on Facebook, with Facebook, you have to have a Facebook account to log into Facebook and watch the show. YouTube gives you the freedom where you do not have to, and so the program is there on YouTube. So I'm considering migrating the program exclusively to Facebook, YouTube. I can share the link on Facebook as well, but doing it on YouTube. That's what I want to do. Both programs, Uplift with Sarah Marshall and also Sunday Settie. The other reason for that, naturally, is the fact that YouTube, after a certain audience, allows you to monetize. So you can sell ads and so forth on YouTube, and you can get paid. Now I know I don't have the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands as the bigger podcasters who make lots of money, and so that's not you know necessarily relevant to me. But at least it gives me the opportunity to at least try something. So with your assistance and with your continued support, I would really love to move the program to YouTube. I could probably share the link on Facebook. Yes, but I would prefer that the viewership go to YouTube and not split it between YouTube and Facebook. And even now, more of the viewers are coming from Facebook and not YouTube. But I'd like to see that reversed. I'd like them to come from YouTube, excuse me, and not Facebook. All right. So with your help, I would love to do that, and that would also give you an opportunity for you to support the program in any which way you can. And so I thank at least I've had a very good support, a good donation over the week, and I thank that individual. I know the person wouldn't want me to call him, so I'm not going to call him, but I want to thank the individual publicly for that donation towards this program. All right. So, what does independence mean to you? And I am drawn to the lyrics of the song from Bob Marley. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, because none but ourselves can free our mind. Good evening, Ev. And this evening, Ev, I've put the link. If you notice there's a link right there on the Facebook and the YouTube. That is a link into the studio. If you feel that you want to interact with me in studio today, chat a little bit about your own independence experience, you're welcome to do that. Coach is there. I've already made the announcement as well. Coach, you could do that as well. All right. So that the link is there. Anybody who has logged on and would love to interact and engage with me tonight, because Richard isn't there, it's just me. It's going to be 2 hours. So if at any time you want to join the studio, the link is there. Just click on the link, you join me in the studio, and we can chat about independence and your own experience specifically. So I go back to the song from Bob Marley. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Now, there is a lot of discussion whenever we talk about independence. Happy Independence, Toya. Good to see you. There is a lot of discussion about mental independence as opposed to mental slavery, for example. And that is usually annexed. Maybe annexed is not a good word. Not a good word, right? But that is usually coupled with art. Got you. That is usually coupled with the issue. Whenever there's talk about political independence, people throw in the, oh, are you really independent? How independent are you? And so that goal of independence very often is raised as a form of a question towards people's ability to think and function on their own. You would hear, for example, people talk about their own independence. I'm an independent woman, I'm an independent this, I'm an independent that, I don't need this and I don't need that. Well, is that what independence really is? And if we were to use that very narrow uh, idea of independence, is that how things function? So that countries that are truly quote unquote independent don't need any other country. So what? They don't trade, they don't do business, there's no tourism, there's no inter-country travel, interstate travel. Does independence mean that you do not need anyone or anything else? Does true independence mean that you as a country do not need to engage with anybody else, that you are in fact a silo, not needing anyone or anything? Is that what independence means? Or is it that you are able to function within a community even as you seek after your own interests? But then, even as I say that, the question becomes, at what costs? Does seeking after your own interests mean trampling on, wrecking, paying lip service to, not respecting the interests of others? Is that what independence really is? So, an independent man or woman, independent man is an independent woman, a woman who makes her own money, she pays her own bills, she ain't need no man. An independent man, I could do my own thing, I could wash, I could cook, I could clean. So I don't need no woman. Is that what independence really is? Now, I know I've gotten into discussions with individuals many times, and the discussion that we've had has centered around your independent thought. your thought. So you would hear political commentators, people in the radio, trying to distinguish themselves by saying, I'm an independent thinker, I'm an independent individual. Oh, but you see, you're a labor man. As if to suggest that because I support labor, that I am not independent and my thoughts aren't independent. And people may suggest that of supporters of the NDP as well, that they support the NDP so their thoughts aren't independent. They are as they were following crowd. Now, I've always thought that being of independent thought speaks more to the process than the product. It speaks more to how you get there than where you end. That's how I have assessed, and I could be wrong, but that's my own assessment of the whole idea of independence and independent thought. It's about the process and not the product. Because I can engage in a thought process that is completely independent of the thought process that everyone uses and completely independent of the thought process that Kojo used in terms of the things that he considered, but end up with the same conclusion. And you can't come tell me because myself, Kojo, and Ev end up with the same conclusion, then we ain't independent. That I am following Kojo or Ev is following me. One of the things in law, when you look at the legal processes and so on, you see in many of the manuals, if I were to put it that way, that the judge must consider all circumstances, or it tells you the circumstances that the court must consider, the judge must consider in arriving at a decision. Now, the guideline and the process is there, and all judges are asked to consider those circumstances, but yet judges can come to different decisions at the end of it, having considered the circumstances. In the same way, the judges can arrive at the same decision, whether it's a panel of three or a panel of five, depending on what the court is, a bench of three or five. They can all arrive at the same decision, having a unanimous decision, but they considered, in considering the circumstances, their process was different. And they may have given different weight to different ingredients in the process. But they've arrived at the same answer. So the idea of independent thought, to me, is about the process, not the outcome. And so I always tell people, yes, I am ULP, and I would not tell you that my in considering things to arrive at a position, I have not considered X or Y. I have not. I could consider what the PM said. I could consider what the minister said. I could consider what this radio reporter said. And in considering all of those things, I, given different weight to different elements being considered, come up with a decision. And I may decide to agree or support something. That's my decision. Like for example, let's talk about the uh, issue of the vaccine during COVID. During COVID, there was a lot of this, information about vaccines. And when the vaccines came out, I was open to all of the information. Those that proposed and those who opposed. I listened to those who opposed. I listened to those who proposed. And I looked at the fact that what was being proposed in St. Vincent and Grenadines was what was being proposed all around the world. I listened to, especially to medical doctors naturally, Dr. Thompson, Dr. Beach, Dr. Duncan, and they gave the medical, I listened to Dr. Fauci online, and they gave medical history as to why the vaccine was important. And they explain things about getting different certifications and how long things took, and they compared it with polio and so forth. Now, of course, the fact that the Prime Minister took it, the fact that the doctors themselves who were encouraging you to take it took it, that was something I considered, and I gave that a lot of weight. I gave that a lot of weight. Now, if they had not taken it and they were telling me to take it, I would give that a lot of weight too. I said, but wait, how come they ain't taking it? And that may have given the weight that I put on the fact that he took it. If I put that same weight on the fact that he hadn't taken it, I never arrived at the decision to not take it. That's my independent decision. But in considering different things and giving weight to different aspects that I'm considering, I came up to that decision. So yes, the fact that the medical individuals who were told him to take it took it. The fact that the PM who was advising and encouraging Vincent to take it took it. That got a lot of weight for me. The fact that the record showed in the very immediate term that the with inoculation, with vaccination, there was improvements in people's people responding positively to it, and the mortality rate dropped. That was positive for me. So I agreed that as well. And at the end of the day, I decided to take the vaccine. An independent decision, but yes, it was influenced by different things that I considered and attached different weight to. But ultimately, I made the decision. No one made it for me. And no one instructed me that I had to make it or there was X or Y repercussion. So before any of that happened, where the government then went to parliament and did the order, I had taken the vaccine. I had taken the vaccine. So I arrived at a decision independently, meaning of my own free will. But yes, I considered different elements that influenced my decision. So let's go back to the big picture of independence. So St. Vincent and Grenadines is an independent state, gained independence in 1979. Does that mean that we do what we want? Does that mean that our internal policy, in crafting internal policy, we would completely ignore what's going on outside? Is that what being independent means? So we craft a policy in complete defiance, that's the word I want to use, of the realities, the external realities. We just craft the policy. Is that what independence means? No, because we live in a society, we live in a global village, which is the term that is used now. We have to coexist and exist within the realities of that global village. And what's the reality? The reality is that on our own, we need the different things. We need to engage other countries as part of our own development because we trade with countries, we buy from them, we sell from them. Or citizens travel to other countries and citizens from other countries, nationals travel to our country. So, what then is independence within the context of globalization? What then is independence within the context of globalization? So let's talk political independence. We have your own government, and our government is responsible for setting policy. Now, in this world of diplomacy and all that stuff, soft power, governments use happy independence, my brother, happy independence. Governments use their influence to try to get countries to act a particular way. They do. And so you have diplomats and officials from governments, different countries meeting and having discussions. And the countries with the greater influence try to exert that influence on those with less influence. But that is how the world works. And that doesn't mean that we're not independent. It doesn't mean that we're not independent. But on fundamental issues, an independent country should be able to express its position without fear of repercussions. Now, very often, there are two words that go together when we talk about independence. It's independence and sovereignty. Sovereign. So you're independent and you're sovereign. You're your own. You can make your own decision, your own rules, and so forth. There's nobody higher than you. There's no higher power than outside of your country that controls your country. You are sovereign, you are king, you are lord. You are master of your own. So with independence comes sovereignty, or with sovereignty comes independence, I don't know. But the two are together. So an independent country is sovereign. Now you might ask yourself, so for example, who is sovereign in our country? Might come a little ticklish, because in the UK, the sovereign is the queen, well, the king. And the king is our head of state to the representative, the governor general. But you'd hear time and again people talk about St. Vincent and Grenadines being a sovereign country. Means that we are governing ourselves. There's no higher authority for St. Vincent and Grenadines than St. Vincent and Grenadines. And I think if we go back to 2009, the idea of the new constitution, I believe that the plan was to really capture finally that final element of our sovereignty and that of our which is that of our head of state. Good evening, Rochelle, and thank you so much for joining. I hope you met Richard in Canada. If you haven't met Richard in Canada, something wrong. So I say we are an independent country, and more we are strengthening our independence and exercising our sovereignty more and more as we grow and develop as a nation. It is the reason our representatives can go across the globe and represent St. Vincent and Grenadines in ways that can make us proud. It is the reason why St. Vincent and Grenadines has been able to hold very senior positions on the world stage. Vice President of ECOSOC, President of ECOSOC, the chair of the Financial and Budgetary Committee in the United Nations, in the General Assembly, the smallest nation to sit on the Security Council and be president for 1 month, because there's a rotating of the presidency in the Security Council. President of CELAC, sorry, ECLAC, no, CELAC, CELAC, ECLAC is the UN, my bad. And hosting that summit in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So clearly, the tools that we have, the tools that our country has, the tools of sovereignty and independence, which some want to question, especially independence, without acknowledging sovereignty, are serving us well. It was those tools that enabled us to build the Rebecca Bridge. It was those tools that enabled us to have the diagnostic center in Georgetown. Those tools enabled the funding of many sea defense and river defense projects across the country. Those tools enabled the learning resource centers across the country. Those tools have provided significant assistance to our men and women, boys and girls, or students for education across the globe, in countries across the globe. Those tools, the tools of sovereignty and independence that our country holds, have enabled the construction of the Argyle International Airport, is enabling the construction of the port, the seaport in Kingston, and is enabling the construction of the acute referral hospital in Annisville. Those tools are the tools that are being used to enable after the volcano and after the 2013 floods and so forth, people getting their homes replaced, repaired at no cost to them. Those are the tools that we use, or tools of sovereignty and independence. And so many individuals who do not understand how those tools work question whether, in fact, we are independent and we are sovereign. When I look at what our country has achieved in terms of the maturity with which we use our tools of sovereignty and independence, I'm pleased. Because I tell you this, there are countries across the world where any casual observer can point and say, this or that country is a puppet of this or that country. A puppet. This country is a puppet of this hegemon. This country is a puppet of that hegemon. I don't think anybody objectively could look at St. Vincent and the Grenadines and refer to St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a puppet of any country, of any power. It will be easy for us in our country to acquiesce and bow. Yes, Father, that is true, to the big powers, the G7 powers, the G20 powers. I remember there was criticism about our vote regarding whaling, and people tried to characterize that vote as a vote for Japan, dishonestly failing to acknowledge that a vote that we cast at the IWC is a vote for indigenous whalers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines living in Barley and Bequia to continue a tradition that is decades old and that is recognized by the IWC and recognized by the EU and others as a part of the indigenous culture of the people. That's not to do with Japan. We don't do commercial whaling, but there are people who are collecting money from different organizations to try and demonize the practice of whaling in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Not acting independently, not acting out of the interest of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but instead acting out of their own self-interest and greed because they collected money, and have the heart to point to St. Vincent's position at the IWC and report that as if somehow stopping the whalers of Bequia and stopping those in Barley who do this for a living and are able to feed their families and continue a cultural practice. I always make the point, a whale is a mammal, and we have a problem with the killing of a mammal. But the same people, some of the same people who talk about whale and killing mammal, eating steak, mutton, and sheep, those mammals different. Is it okay to kill those mammals, but it's not okay to kill others? Help me out here. But it's lobbying of those organizations. And those same organizations that lobby and try to demonize the indigenous people in St. Vincent and Grenadines who wail would never go and do it to the First Nation people in Canada. Never. Who hunt seals and kill seals and sell seal skin. As a matter of fact, I remember years ago, after the hurricane eruption, there was an article about a Canadian who speaks of the eruption of St. Vincent and Grenadines. I'm like, Canadian? No Canadian. It was a Mitchell Louise Mitchell. She was identifying herself as a Canadian. I wonder if she would take the same position towards her Canadian brothers and sisters who hunt seals and try to demonize them in the same way she would demonize Vincentians, particularly from Beck, where her dad represented for many, many years, and Barley. But, well, I hear like Kojo. If some people want to take whale as pet, then others might take cattle as pet, and so you can't stop me beef because my child has some pet cows, and my child has some pet sheep, and my child has some pet goat. So everybody have pet, and nobody can eat. It's not even about petting, Kojo. One of the issues with whaling was the fact that it had become endangered. Some of the species had become endangered because of the commercial whaling excuse me, of some of the big countries. It's like climate change. Significant gradings, 1 and 2 and 3 whale per year, now affect the whale population. Just like climate change. You can't come tell me about my car, my emission when the 30,000 cars we are in significant gradings and the emission from Finland is not even 1/100th of the emissions of the US and China and so on. So you going to tell me about my cars and my emission while doing the same thing? And what? So the point I was making was when we vote at the IWC, the International Whaling Commission, we are casting an independent vote that is in the interest of the people of our country who carry on the indigenous practice of whaling. That's all. And in that forum, we are using our tools of sovereignty and independence to advance a cultural practice, a cultural historic practice of ours. If you don't eat really, don't eat really, that's fine. Don't eat it. If you don't eat blackfish, that's fine. Don't eat it. Don't eat it. But don't demonize the practice. The tools of sovereignty and independence. This year, we are celebrating 45 years of the use of the access of all access to the tools of sovereignty and independence, tools that we gained 45 years ago. And I challenge anyone watching, I challenge anyone on here that just to dispute the fact that you are seeing today a much more mature, a much more reasoned use and approach to the way we use our tools of sovereignty and independence as a country in advancing the interests of our citizens. And I agree that Kojo, they see the movie Free Willy and all of a sudden they think that's the world, that's the reality. The challenge is there. I want you to challenge me because I believe that as our country has developed, you are seeing a more reasoned, a more mature use of the tools of sovereignty and independence by our country in developing sustainably in the interest of all Vincentians. So, for example, whenever our leaders travel, our prime minister and so forth, one of the things that we discuss and discusses with leaders, I've seen it firsthand, is the possibility of scholarships for Vincentian students. That is a proper use of the tools of sovereignty and independence so that our students are able to go to different countries and access quality education where they can go back to St. Vincent Grenadines or in some cases different countries and gain meaningful employment as professionals. As professionals. A few years ago, we had 40 scholarships from Wales. In September, we had a number of scholarships to Taiwan. And with the students who've gotten their awards on Friday, they'll be moving off, no doubt, to access higher education next year. And all of these are as a result of the proper use of our sovereignty, of our tools of sovereignty and independence. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Can we do more? Absolutely. By the way, as I'm saying all this and I'm watching and I'm looking at the the clock, I realize that the clock went back today. And I should have said this at the very beginning of the show. And so maybe that's the reason that some individuals have not recognized up to now that Sunday Settie is on. Because Sunday Settie has actually come 1 hour earlier. That is because the time has gone back in the UK. So normally I would start Sunday Settie at uh, 9 o'clock, the UK time. But today I'm starting at 8 o'clock. So I don't know. I don't know if it affected. If it affected, it shouldn't. It shouldn't affect individuals in the Caribbean and in the US because I'm still shooting at 4 o'clock. But just in case, I don't know. I don't know. But yes, the time went back today. So I'm now 4 hours ahead of St. Vincent and Grenadines. And I am 4 hours ahead of New York, I think, as well. So yes. Actually, no. I think it should go back to as well. And it actually be 5 hours. But anyway, I'll figure it out. So yes, there is always room for improvement in the way we utilize our sovereignty and our independence. But having acknowledged that, having acknowledged that, we have to also acknowledge that the way it is being used now is being used in a mature, reasonable, practical manner to advance the citizens of our country and our country as a whole. So you ask yourself the question, am I truly independent? I would say yes. I would say yes. And I want to play this song. Yeah, because I played plenty times, but I love it. You know? Where is it? Let me find it. I want to play this song about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let's see. No, not you at all. Um, I am looking for this song and I want to play it because it's one of those songs that gives me. Hold on, just bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. One of those songs. hmm It's one of those songs. When I play it, you go. Don't worry, man. Don't worry. Don't worry. Again, it just now. Again, it just now. Sorry about that. But I want you to. I wonder. Uh, my apologies. Okay, no, we're not here. Let's go here. Let's go here. I think I will get it here. Ah, I find it. I find it. I find it. So I'm going to do it right here. Yes, I want you to listen to this one and let me talk about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I want to listen to this one because I think this song more than any song. I mean, there's Beckett and Swan, but it's one of the more recent songs that really gives me a good sense
The king,
of where
we
we are.
UN permanent rep, is the president of ECOSOC. We the smallest country ever in its history to hold this position at the United Nations. During Hurricane SPG, did play a leading role to set the next UN sustainable development goals. Come 2020, we will also be the smallest ever country to sit at the table of the UN Security Council. No one knows the size of a man is the size of his brain. The size of his brain. That's the height of his head. Whatever we minds conceive, which a help we can achieve. The more we unite, the more challenges we find. Now we making great strides. Tiny SPG is now the envy of bigger countries. Yes, both regionally and internationally. This tiny state, sing it, sing it. We might be small, yes, but we footprints lie. Hit the horn. Did I dance? You like it? Sing it, sing it, sing it.
Covering 150 years of history, relating the story of 5 generations. It took 12 years to write, and now it's finally here. The story of Pauline Bramble, Springs, Blossoms, and Young Thorns, a literary masterpiece by Dr. Richard A. Byron Cox, author of the critically acclaimed Where Mama Stares in Vain. Pauline Bramble's story is your great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, and your story. It is our story of pain, love, tears, and joys, our story of struggle with no surrender. It's a golden gift to our nation as we mark 45 years of independence. Get your copy and a gift for a friend for this independence. From Games Bookshop, Career City Store, Giggles at AIA, and Jazzy's at the Cruise Ship Berth. It is our story like never told before. The story of Pauline Bramble. Read it and be inspired.
So I hope you enjoy that rendition of Little Chris's. Uh, I hope you enjoy that rendition of Little Chris, rendition of Little Chris song that he did a number of years ago, speaking about footprints. I don't know what the official name of the song is, but we love to talk about footprints large. Now, remember, tonight it's just me, and I'm doing this show as I run up to the Independence Parade that should start in about an hour or so at, well, I don't know where there's Victoria Park Artisville, I didn't, but I think Victoria Park should start with. And I think there should be a pre-show with fireworks and so on. So I did plan to do this program up until, and then you just move over. But I could probably end a little bit earlier, so just in case there's a pre-show of fireworks and so on, you can get it as well. I also did mention that, and it's there. There are two links. There's a link on YouTube and on Facebook right at the top, and it's a link that if you want to join me in studio and chat about independence and what it means to you, all you need to do is click on the link and you'll be let into the studio and we could have a discussion. All right, the link is right at the top. It's the first comment on Facebook, it's the first comment on YouTube. So if you're there, click on it, you'll be entered into the studio and we can continue our discussion about independence and exactly what it means to you. And it may have different meaning to you than it does to me and to other persons who are watching, but your own perspective is what we're interested in. And also, while we're talking about what it means to you, we can also look at different independent stories. And you can share a story of independence, whether it was the first independence or a particular independence that you went to. I remember, for example, that independence celebration, that independence parade, rather, where former Prime Minister, deceased Prime Minister, the Honorable James Mitchell, handed over the keys to the Minister of Finance, Annie Eustace, at the hand over the key, wooden key, at the Victoria Park in 2000 and 2000 actually. At that time, I tell you, I was fortunate. I was very fortunate because that time I was teaching the Musty Primary School. I was teaching the Musty Primary School. And in my class was one Gabby Mitchell, who is the daughter of former Prime Minister Mitchell. She was in my common entrance class. And I made the arrangements. I spoke with the head of the school and the authorities in Mustique to organize for us to come to the mainland. Because one of the things I wanted the students at the school to experience was the well, first of all, you have all of these parliamentarians and you know their names, but I wanted them to be able to put a face to the name, meet these people. So we planned a tour. We went to the BUSBG. I think they were all the students were given a starting account on that day when we went there. Um, we actually stayed at Shrewsbury House at the time. That's out at Rathamil. The students stayed there. And we were driven to the Victoria Park in the morning. And so I was actually close there. As a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, and it is my carelessness. I don't know if I ever mentioned this before publicly, but it's my carelessness because the actual speech delivered at Independence Parade on Independence Day 2000, the actual speech with all of the corrections and edits in pen, delivered by then Prime Minister James Mitchell, I got it. He gave it to me. The actual speech where he put in little thing here and there with the black ink pen and so on, that he delivered at park, the paper that I read from, he gave it to me. I got it. Maybe I was too young and didn't understand the value of that, but I don't know it. I don't know that day. But I got that speech. I got that speech. That's my independence story. Spending independence, 2000, the first independence of the turn of the century. I spent that independence at Shrewsbury House with some students of mine from Mustique Primary School. And we attended the Independence Day parade at Victoria Park, where Prime Minister James Mitchell, then Prime Minister James Mitchell, handed over the key. leadership of the party, prime minister of the country, to the Honorable Annie Eustace, and I saw when Annie Eustace left the park in the car that Sir James, I believe so, Sir James arrived in. I witnessed that moment of history. I witnessed that. What did you witness? What's your independence story? And as we celebrate 45 years of independence, what exactly are you excited about? What exactly are you pleased with? And also, where do you see improvements needed? Where do you see improvements needed? Because I know you're happy with some things naturally, but you wouldn't be happy with everything. But I think as we celebrate it today, we could probably just look at the positives and speak about what we are happy with, and could leave the other issues that we are unhappy with for another time. Because the truth is, we have all kind of avenues to express ourselves. We have all kind of avenues. We have radio, we have Facebook, and so on. So expressing our displeasure, we have opportunities to do that. Today, I would prefer that we focus on our pleasure, on those things about our country, about our people, about our independence that make us happy, that we are pleased with, that we're excited about, that we're proud about. This year, we saw phenomenal global success. We saw the success of Shafiqa Maloney on the international Olympic stage. We saw the success of our ballers on the regional stage, and I saw in uh, in the newspaper that we've actually gone up a notch. So we've stepped up a number in the rankings, no doubt because of our success at the regional tournament. It was a fantastic year for Dayton Butler, who's now part of the ICC elite panel of umpires. Sean Stanley took part in the Commonwealth table tennis competition, although he defeated this individual in the group stage three love, he lost in the finals to that same individual three games to one, or something of that sort. Yes, it was just he just had a bad game, or the person studied him properly well. But second in the was in the world. So congratulations to Sean Stanley. And then we see what we've been doing on the global stage. We see what we've been able to accomplish nationally. And even, for example, as we bound from Hurricane Beryl, the tremendous effort of our people in rehabilitating and rebuilding and reconstructing so that over thousands of homes have been repaired. Very soon, I'm going to be back on its feet. And I want to be back on its feet. We had by no one who talked about the way his house was damaged. That'll be repaired. Because the government has given the commitment that the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines who suffered damage will be made whole. Will be made whole. So we've had quite a year that we can reflect on with pride, a year that we can reflect on with pride. I believe Skinny Fabulous did some good stuff in winning awards. I think two or three awards, um, Caribbean Music Awards this year. And I'm always reminded. I went with a friend of mine to this joint a few nights ago, and while we were there, with some broke out on the DJ system and started that the whole place going on, turn me on. Every little continues to see serious success with his music. I got a snippet from somebody, a performer, an artist, a writer, songwriter, but he asked me not to share it. But it bad. It bad. He asked me not to share it, but it bad. But I like it, put it that way. And I believe Norris will like it too, she hear it. I believe, by the way, yeah, she is a good night. I guess she busy for independence because so many things happening. So I guess she out and about. I guess she's out and about. So yes, I believe that after 45 years, our people can be pleased with what our country has accomplished. I believe that after 45 years, we can be pleased with the way our government is able to use the tools that we have of our sovereignty and our independence to assist in the development of our nation. We can be happy. We can be proud. We can look at where we've come and where we've come from and where we are. And we can compare those 2 points and be satisfied that we have made significant strides. We can also, these two things can be true. We can also decide and acknowledge that even as we recognize and appreciate how far we've come, that there is still some way to go. And so we keep working hard and we keep moving forward and we keep moving upward. We can recognize that as well. We can recognize that. And there's no shame and no harm in recognizing that. Badu Hills, good evening. Well, I tell you something, Badu, and I hear you talk about industries. But what kind of industries are we talking about? You know, one of the things about two things drive industries, Badu, especially if we talk about major industries and foreign investment. Cheap labor. One of the reasons that factories go to places like Bangladesh and so on is because they can get people working in those factories for a couple US a day. You know, it's in the Grenadines. The minimum wage that we have is close to 20 US. Nobody incoming, no major company will leave Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and those places to come to Zimbabwe where needs to pay 20 US when they can get the same labor for 5 US in those countries. That's one. Secondly, as far as the missing grains is concerned, in terms of what we produce on our own, we do not have the, understand me now, eh? I'm going to give you some examples. We do not have the volume to compete with anywhere else. And that's one of the reasons why, for example, our banana didn't do very well. Because the reason why we survived for so long was that we're given preferential treatment. Because the volumes that were produced by Chile and Ecuador and those places were significantly more. And because they were producing so much more, it was so much cheaper for them. And the end product was cheaper. So in terms of service ingredients, I believe wherever there is there is wherever we may have the possibility of production, it must be targeted to me for me in two areas. I'm not an economist, mind you. If anything, I'm a lawyer, or I'm close to being a lawyer. Well, I am a lawyer. I'm just not called to the bar because I have two law degrees already, right? Um, but I'm not a practicing lawyer. You know what I mean? Because I'm not been called to any bar. But so there are two things that we must gear the production to. One, local consumption. Whether it's agriculture or what have you, we are able to produce enough to feed ourselves. That's one. And secondly, niche markets where people are willing to pay premium prices for the product because of their uniqueness. Outside of that, I do not think Seamless Ingredients has the ability to produce en masse in the same way much larger countries can to be able to compete globally and on an open market. But we can produce one for domestic consumption. Instead of importing a bunch of things, instead of importing carrots, produce carrots. Instead of importing lettuce, produce lettuce. Instead of importing tomatoes, produce tomatoes. That's what I'm talking about. Instead of importing a whole lot of chicken, 20, $30 million worth of chicken, produce local chickens and let people buy chicken in some missing ingredients. That's one. And two, niche marketing. So if we are selling, let's say, conch or lobsters or what have you, we're able to sell those things marketed premium. These are wild conch and wild lobsters from the Caribbean at a premium price. I think those are the two areas that we may have some success. And if we are able to get whether it's local investors or some foreign investors to channel in that way. For example, we have the rainforest seafoods that came from Jamaica and is dealing with the exporting of fish or seafood. Their exports are specific and targeted to their niche. Those are the things I believe, the kind of things that I believe can work. The problem with that, I'll tell you this, is as you produce these things for export into niche markets, they would then become expensive at home. So these are some of the things we are going to have to deal with. Because if if fisher folk can get their fish for $12 a pound at Rainforest Seafoods, they're not going to bring it in the market and sell it for seven, which is what Vincent are accustomed buying it for. And so if you want the fish, you have to pay $12 a pound. And it's not because of inflation, and it's not because Ralph make everything expensive. It's because of the situation, they are able to get fantastic prices for their fish from a supply, from an exporter, and that carries everything up. Think about that. So I think this is where I'm gonna jump out for the day and give you some time to organize yourself so you can be a part of the Independence celebration. I hope I've been at the library all day today. I've been out all day. Came home just about an hour or so before the show, and got myself organized to do the show. So I'm tired, and I hope I'll see if I'm able to stay up. Thank you very much, Badu. All right. So I hope I'm able to stay up to see some of the Independence Day parade and hear the speech of the Prime Minister, but I don't know if I can make it. But even if I don't make it, I will listen it. I will listen it tomorrow when I wake up. So hey, on behalf of all of us here at Sunday Set, including Richard, who is not able to be here join me today because he's in Canada on his book tour and he's doing a bunch of different activities, so he's not here. On behalf of him, myself, let me thank you so much for joining today's edition of Sunday Setting, and look forward to seeing you next week when Richard will be back. And this time, we definitely talk about uh, uh, round up the independence celebration, and hopefully by then I'm able to get some of the speeches and all those kind of things from what happened, and be able to give you a good package and a good show next week Sunday. So until next week Sunday, we thank you so much for joining me on this edition of Sunday Settie, and wish you all a fantastic week. Until next week, good evening.
Covering 150 years of history, relating the story of 5 generations. It took 12 years to write, and now it's finally here. The story of Pauline Bramble, Springs, Blossoms, and Young Thorns, a literary masterpiece by Dr. Richard A. Byron Cox, author of the critically acclaimed Where Mama Stares in Vain. Pauline Bramble's story is your great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, and your story. It is our story of pain, love, tears, and joys, our story of struggle with no surrender. It's a golden gift to our nation as we mark 45 years of independence. Get your copy and a gift for a friend for this independence from Games Bookshop, Career City Store, Giggles at AIA, and Jazzy's at the Cruise Ship Berth. It is our story like never told before. The story of Pauline Bramble. Read it and be inspired.
The King, UN permanent rep, is the president of ECOSOC. We the smallest country ever in its history to hold this position at the United Nations. During Hurricane ESPG did play a leading role to set the next UN sustainable development goals. Come 2020, we will also be the smallest ever country to sit at the table of the UN Security Council. No one knows the size of a man is the size of his brain. The size of his brain, that's the height of his head. Whatever we minds conceive, which a help we can achieve. The more we unite, the more challenges we find. Now we making great strides. Tiny SPG is now the envy of bigger countries. Yes, both regionally and internationally. This tiny state, we punching up every weight. We might be small, yes, but we footprints lie.